how old everything was, and it ended up that some of the people that were on there had said the Earth is billions of years old. And it got me wondering, if we're billions of years old, then is this all the farther we have progressed as a race in what generally is the most universal accepted secular date for the beginning of time at 4.5 billion years? So then I went into the Bible and I started to look in Genesis to see how old the Bible said we were. And the Bible said we're about 6,000 years old, give or take a couple of centuries. And that to me seemed like it was an awful huge disparity between what the secular world believed and what the Bible believing world believes, so I decided to investigate it a little farther. I have come to the realization that the dates that have been put on the earth through the secular world comes from scientific rather than historical guesstimates. The secular world uses multiple different types of formulas to gauge how old something it is, but the two most popular are the radiometric method, and that was followed in the late 1800s, early 1900s by carbon dating. And the carbon dating is the one that's usually more accepted today than it is or was years and years ago. And how that works is science assigns everything a half-life as far as radiations or radioactivity goes. Believe it or not, we're all radioactive. And they say everything has a half-life. At the end of that half-life, when something is at that date, then it should have no radioactive isotopes left in it at all. Now, this is all basically conjecture built on a, what do we want to say, a guesstimate. Science cannot believe in miracles. Science has to believe that everything in the universe is explainable, which is why we are in the type of quandary we are now as humanity. Is how old are we, and is the Bible really true? Even in the Bible, there's a disparity in how old creation actually is. Most people agree that it's over 6,000 years. Some people say that due to the changes in calendars and the way that we measure time, we could be as old as 10,000 years, maybe even 12,000. But when you take and subtract even 12,000 years from 4.5 billion years, you can see why we know something's got to be wrong. And for the Bible-believing world, history has been recorded since the beginning of time. Somebody has recorded it, either in the written world, on stone tablets, inside of caves, a lot of different ways that they have found recorded history. And it would be almost impossible for history to be recorded until man recorded it. So I have not seen anything in the secular explanation of how old we are as to when human life form came into existence. The secular world would like to have you believe that we have evolved over 4.5 billion years from single cell plankton that was in the oceans, that were covering the oceans, into where we are today. And at that point, they do not even give an estimate as to when human life started. Human life is covered right here in the book of Genesis. So we know human life started right after the earth was created and the heavens were formed. So we, for the sake of this discussion, are going to start and look at the recorded beginning of time as we find it into Genesis. And we're going to start in chapter 1, verse 1. And it said, "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void. And darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the surface of the waters." So it's telling us right in the very beginning, the planet itself was created before God created anything else. But it was just, for a better term, a rock out in total darkness. In verse 3, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. So on the very first day, God created heaven and earth. He created day and night. And he went out of his way to say that the Spirit of God was floating or hovering over the waters of the earth. So God gave us an explanation on the first day of what he had created. If you look into the secular thing, there was no first day. There was no beginning, hence there was no end. In verse 6, God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. So God created the earth on the first day. And he created the heaven, but then he separated heaven from earth on the second day. Pretty graphically described in the book, so it is, again, there is nothing in the secular creation that explains how heaven and earth were made, how it was divided, how the moon and the stars came into being. Again, it goes back into the secular world believing that it just happened, that there was no creator, there was no plan, it just happened. In verse 9, God said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place, and let dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas. And God saw it was good. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree, yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after its kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And again God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the third day. So we now have a description as to what God was doing as he created each part of the world that we live in. And God saw that each thing that he had created was good. Why is that important? Well, I'm sure that if God would have created something that he wasn't satisfied with, it would not exist. And instead he would go back and create something that was good. And God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and for years." This, to me, is one of the most telling segments of the book of Genesis, especially in the first chapter, because this showed that God had a greater picture of what was to take place. He understood that the earth was going to have seasons. He understood that we were going to have, at some point in time, the ability to divide life into time. And that time could be minutes, could be days, could be weeks, could be months, could be years, could be centuries. But by the position of the planets and the sun and the moon, we are able to tell how long we have been since the last time the sun was in a particular place or the moon was in a particular place. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. Imagine how hard it would be to create something here on earth if we didn't have light. It's often been said that we stumble around in the darkness enough the way it is, even though the God did create day and night. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. And then he made stars also. So God now has explained in 4 days why he created the heaven and the earth, the seas, the universe, as a matter of fact, because in our understanding, as God has allowed us to understand, the sun is the center of our universe. And he created the universe at the same time that he created Earth. The scientists in the secular world believe that the universe is 14 billion years old. So, again, if we had a large disparity between the time that the Bible said everything was formed and the time the secular world says it was formed, it is an even greater amount of time, in billions of years, that the universe was created. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. Verse 20. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and the fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales, and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw it was good. So God is now filling our earth and our universe with other living creatures. He did not say anything about the fish of the earth crawling out and becoming man. God said he created them to live abundantly in the waters and in the oceans. Yet, the secular world would have you believe that we crawled out of the mire that was in the ocean, and that we evolved from legged fish through various ages. And yet, there was no master plan for it. It just happened. Now, I don't know about you, but after examining both sides of this, find it extremely difficult to comprehend that, quote, science can be as far off in time estimates as what the written word is. This to me is just another example of people who are unable to grasp the concept of God, of a person that is a superior being that created all that we know as our earth and our universe today. I have come to find through many years of reading that the scientists themselves cannot comprehend anything that is unexplainable to them. They do not subscribe to the theory that we do, that God created heaven and earth. He was a miracle worker. He had a greater master plan for everything that is happening and everything that is taking place. Yet these are the people who believe themselves to be above average in intelligence, that they know more than the rest of the world, that their thoughts and their perceptions of things are so much greater than the rest of the people on the planet. It is not really difficult, after reading some of these things, to understand why they don't want to believe in God. Because it blows their theories right out of the water. Even some of the stuff that they teach contradicts itself. Carbon dating, the thing that they swear by that is going to give you an accurate reading of how old something is to 1,000,000 years. They can't explain diamonds. They can't explain coal. They can't explain oil. Because according to their carbon dating system, these things shouldn't exist at all. These things are still in the formative years. These are also the people that will tell you that a bumblebee cannot fly, that a helicopter cannot fly, that you cannot build a concrete ship and have it float. Yet these are all examples of things that are happening, that have happened. During World War II, the British and the Americans and the Allies built hundreds and hundreds of concrete ships and sailed them from England over to parts of Belgium and parts of Holland where they needed to build artificial reefs and artificial harbors, and then sunk them. But if you listen to the scientists, concrete doesn't float. The helicopter, which has been used for good and bad, can't fly if you listen to the theorists that say two rotors beating upon themselves in the same direction are never going to allow anything to fly. Yet tell that to the thousands of people that have been airlifted to hospitals and had their lives saved. We need to start questioning the people that question God. Because they are so far off base that most of them can't even explain their own theories. On this program that I was watching, there was a gentleman on there that asked one of these professors a question. And the man didn't have an answer for it. He said, I don't know. We don't know everything yet. And I had to laugh when he added the yet on the end of it. Because I was thinking to myself, after the dissertation you gave, it proves to me that you don't know anything. You guess about a lot of things, you have a lot of theories about a lot of things. But I know my God's real. And I know my God is going to come back someday. And he is going to judge you just like he's going to judge me and everybody else that has walked on the face of the earth. The people that say there's no God. I'd love to hear the reasoning you're going to give God for not believing that he's real. In the coming weeks, we are going to go through more of creation and try to get a better grip on why people believe what they believe, why people don't believe what they should believe. But the thing that we need to do is to reach the people that don't believe. We need to go out, and if they come up with one of these theories, make them describe to you exactly how it is they came about to these theories. And none of them are going to be able to tell you how they came up with the theories in black and white, and you can't. All you've got to do is turn to the Bible and turn to Genesis. And right there is a written history. And who am I going to believe? Am I going to believe somebody that comes up with some kind of a mathematical formula? Or am I going to believe something that was written by people that have actually witnessed this? I'm out of time for now. I want to thank you for joining us today. I hope this raised some questions and thoughts in you, and if it does, please get into the Bible and research it. That's what Sunday school is all about, to get us, to get you to reading the Word. God bless you all, and thank you.